Добрый вечер,
Good afternoon,
уважаемые артисты,
dear
добрый вечер,
artists.
уважаемые
Good afternoon, dear
студенты.
audience.
Добрый день всем, кто нас смотрит сейчас
Good
в прямом
afternoon to
эфире.
everybody who's watching us live.
Вы все прекрасно знаете,
You all
что
know
мы
very
собрались
well
здесь
that we are here
сегодня в Мариинском театре
at the
по
Mariinsky Theatre
случаю нового праздника.
to celebrate a
Он,
new holiday.
естественно, уже не первый год, но все-таки это
This
новый праздник.
hasn't been
Международный день
very new,
балета.
but it's a new holiday, International World Ballet
Появилась
Day.
такая традиция
It's a great idea
отмечать
to have this tradition to celebrate
особым днем этот вид замечательного
this beautiful art is celebrated
И
on a
сегодня с
special day.
нами
And today
здесь перед вами сидят
you see
молодые прекрасные артисты,
young, amazing artists of the Mariinsky, Vsevolod Maevsky,
Nagahisa,
Nagahisa,
Camilla,
Mazzi,
Malyshev,
Roman Malyshev,
Iliushkina,
Mariinsky,
Bulanova
Bulanova,
и Khoreva.
and Khoreva.
Давайте, чтобы разрядить какую-то официальщину,
Let us have a small icebreaker. So there are three Mashas here. I will be happy to stand here and make a wish, and another wish, because I'm standing in between two Mashas. I hope your wish will also come true. You sent us quite a few questions. Thank you, dear students, and the questions were very interesting. I have selected a few questions that I liked the most. I thought they were the most appropriate for this day and situation. If you have any more questions, I actually have them all here, and I will be able to ask all of them. So let's start. For it to be easier for you, I will be addressing a question to a certain artist. If you'd like to add something, well, you can assist your friends. Once you've liberated and feel free, perhaps you will be able to select a question you'd like to answer. So, Masha, here's a question for you. You will have a premiere.
Какие чувства вы испытали, узнав о том, что вы после всех испытаний
What did you feel when you realized that after the Vaganova exams you were accepted at the Mariinsky?
Good afternoon. Honestly, I don't really remember now. There was so much happening after that. But of course, it was very, very exciting. I was very, very happy, and I also felt a great responsibility. I was no longer a child, no longer a student. I was stepping on a new way. I was becoming a ballet artist. So I had to work even more. I had to move ahead. And I had to be worthy of the great theatre I was representing now.
Masha, what do you think?
если ты все-таки вспомнишь,
If you remember,
200 лет работаешь в
it
театре,
wasn't like 200 years ago. The whole process, the ballet class,
показать себя,
when you were showing your artistry, what were you feeling when you were waiting for the results? Were you actually certain that, after the class I was the best, and of course I was the coolest, and of course no options, I'll be there?
Well, that I do remember. I do remember the audition class. It was in the summer or in the spring, and I remember entering through entrance 14, and we went to our changing rooms, the ones on the third floor, and we also used them for the academy performances to warm up and to change. And I was sitting in my splits and thinking about what the audition was going to be like. I didn't try to be more nervous than I needed to be. I just knew that I had to come out and do what I was learning for 8 years, and I had to be worthy of my teacher. The class was given by the Khoreva. That was the first time I met him. There were some very difficult jumps I haven't seen before, so it was the first time in my life. That was very, very scary. I remember the faces of the coaches. I remember Lyubov Olympievna. She's working with me in the theater right now, and I remember standing at the bar right across from her. I remember her smiling. That was very nice. So I tried to keep looking at her because it was like a light was emanating from her. And after the class, I also felt very, very calm. So I did not guess whether I would get in or not get in. Of course, that was a big dream, but it was all up to the Lord. And we were told that we were accepted by Yulia Kosenkova, our teacher at the Vaganova.
After the discussion, right?
Ну, а как ты, вот, когда ты ждала результата,
Well, you were waiting for the results.
думала, возьмут тебя
What
или
were you
нет?
thinking?
Были сомнения?
Did you have a kind of anticipation? Did you have any doubts?
Yes, I did have doubts. Oh, it's a funny story, actually. When I just entered the academy when I was 11, I felt like I was the prima at the Mariinsky. No questions there. But within the 8 years of studies, I understood that the ballet world was actually very complicated. And in my graduation year, I finally realized that it was actually possible that I would not get into the Mariinsky. And I did not have a plan B. That was the only theater for me. So in my graduation year, I began to have doubts about myself, but there was a lot of work, the graduation exam, a lot of difficult studies, there was a graduation performance, and I sort of forgot about it. And I tried not to think about the bad things. So I just hoped and did my best. It's a very simple recipe.
And it all worked.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
thank the Lord. Yes, everything worked out with getting into the theater.
Спасибо, Маша.
Thank you, Masha.
Ром, я хочу задать вопрос.
Roma, another question is for you.
Чем тебя удивил первый раз?
What surprised you the very first time at the Mariinsky, in your first working day? Were you surprised by the class? For example,
Кто-то из студентов, что тебя удивило? Свободы?
were you surprised by the freedom or the combination of steps or attention of your coach or just novelty of everything?
Hello, everyone. I do remember that day. I remember every minute of that day. I love ballet as an art, and when I was a student at the academy, I knew every artist by name, by first name and last name, and I followed them closely, and I watched every single performance. And when I came into the theater and came into the class, and you could attend any class you wanted at the time, and it felt like shooting stars. There were Ekaterina Kondorova, Victoria Teroshkina. So all of those people that from the auditorium seemed to me something like fairies. I was very afraid. I was very, very nervous. And I sweated profusely. I tried very, very hard. I was in the last line so as not to disturb anyone, and I said hello to everyone and bowed to everyone. It was very, very scary, but it was absolutely amazing, because I had never thought that, not even that I could work with those people, but that I could stand next to them and to say hello to them. So I wish that every one of you has
Thank
an
you, Roma,
experience
very
like
much.
that.
Ты вернул меня
You brought me
в
back
далекое
to
прошлое,
my own past.
40 лет назад.
40 years ago,
Почти 40,
well,
39
almost 40 years
лет
ago,
назад
30
я
years,
впервые переступил
39,
как артист
I entered the
порог этого
Mariinsky,
театра, и вот всё, о чём ты сейчас
and
говорил, я
I
вспомнил,
actually
что
felt
вот
the
точно
very
так
same
же.
thing. It was
Ещё
absolutely
хотел
the
бы,
same.
искренне поблагодарить
I would
тебя
also
за
like
то,
to
что
thank you sincerely
вот
for this tradition that I feel has been a little bit lost nowadays. Not everything works as it should. And now you said when you visited all the shows, I remember that actually when I was at the academy, I never missed a single show in this very theater. I went to the gallery, I would watch every single performance. We knew every artist by their name, we knew who would dance what, and we never had any mistakes. We knew all the casts, and we knew that we will be watching that very artist or this artist. And remembering that time, my own youth, my school life, I remember that the very first and probably the only time I was shocked, and there was the only bis of Maradoukaev in the morning of Don Quixote with Tatiana Terehova. It was the only time that the audience had an encore, that the artist actually had to bow 10 times after his variation, and they wouldn't let him go until he encored that. They did it all again. It was back in the 80s, and thank you for recalling this. Thank you for having been prepared for your profession and that you loved it so very much since your childhood. So, Masha, in the middle, I have a question for you. It's a simple question on the one hand. On the other hand, it might be difficult, and it may help all the students that we see here in the auditorium. So it's a question from a student of an academy. Which pieces of advice from your academy teachers you could actually use at the theater that came handy for you?
I think a very valuable piece of advice can be given not by a school teacher alone, but I personally heard this phrase from Lyudmila Kovalova, my teacher at the Vaganova. It's a very old saying, just don't give up and don't be afraid of anything. And if you know what you want, and you know exactly what your goals are, fear is redundant, just like despair. And I think that this advice is the most important one. For me, I always remember it in times of hardships. So that's all I can say.
Perhaps you guys would like to add something that your teachers would say, and perhaps you didn't even notice that back in school, just like our audience. Seva, what do you think? Can you remember something? It is very useful in a practical way.
Well, my teacher, I finished the Kiev State College, and we were our teacher's first graduation class. And he said, use your maximum everything. That's also a very simple piece of advice, very simple phrase, but you have to know that you have to give more than 100% at all times. And then everything has meaning. So whenever you give more than your 100%, you want to work, you want to dance, you get results, and everything changes for you.
Thank you, Seva. Masha has something to say?
Lyudmila Kovalova told this to me at school, and Masha will confirm that. She always said, you have to be responsible for yourself. You have to do everything for yourself. So she told us to find our own music, to rehearse variations, to go to costume tryouts, and to learn everything ourselves. It was very strange because it felt that the teachers had to do everything for us, but it was very, very useful at the theater. Although at the theater everyone is very, very helpful, but this is a very fundamental principle, being responsible, so I'm very grateful to Lyudmila for that.
Thank you, Masha. May, there is a personal question, even for you. There are a few of them. What is the difference between a Western class and ballet class at the Mariinsky, perhaps? And the second question, what about Russian tradition in ballet teaching in Monaco?
Я буду говорить по-английски.
I will speak English.
Yes. So I will answer the second question.
Да, я отвечу на второй вопрос
We didn't have
сначала.
any Russian teacher
У нас не было русских
in Monaco.
педагогов в Монако.
So for me, it was kind of a big shock when I came
И для
here.
меня, когда я
And
приехала
when
сюда,
I
это
did
было
first
огромным
class,
шоком. Когда я первый раз пришла на урок,
first thing I saw was
первое, что я увидела,
the way of using the upper body.
это то, как все держат корпус. Это было совершенно не так, как у нас. Да, совершенно по-другому.
The performances was
И когда я
also
смотрела
something
спектакли,
difference between
я тоже видела
what I
огромную
learned
разницу
in Monaco
между
and
тем,
here.
чему я научилась в
My
Монако,
first
и то,
performance
что я
I saw
видела
here was
здесь.
Giselle, and
Первый
the,
спектакль,
I
который я увидела
remember
здесь,
so
была
much that
«Жизель», и я
Екатерина
помню
Осмокина was
Екатерину
playing
Осмокину,
Giselle,
которая
and I
танцевала
was
«Жизель».
like very shocked how she beautifully used her arms and upper body. And when second act, all the wheelies comes, I was sitting in the teacher's lodge, which is
On the
very
si-
close from the from the stage, and everybody had the same arms, like upper body was exactly the same, and I was like, I just couldn't, move my eyes. I didn't even need to see the position of the feet or of every person's technique. It was upper body that was showing so much this beauty of the ballet, and then I understood that it is something different than I learned from Monaco.
Okay. And in Monaco, I repeat the second question. In Monaco, they have the Russian tradition in the school, or it's not right now?
So now we have a director, is Italian, but before this director, we had Russian director, and she was Russian, and I'm pretty much sure that she had a Russian method, but for now, no, we don't have any Russian big Vaganova method, no.
Because I know why they're asking you about this. Because in the Russian season, Diaghilev built the company in Monaco.
Yes.
And a lot of the Russians stay there. And this is a beginning of the ballet in Europe, in France, in this area of France. Because a lot of Russian dancers stay there.
Yes.
Why they're asking?
Yes.
It's a
But-
historical question.
Yeah, but we have in Monte Carlo we have this ballet company which is the director by John Mayo, and Jean-Christophe Mayo, and he is making his new own choreography, which is more to modern side, still on point shoes, but neoclassical, more free movements with the upper body and new modern style. So we don't really have this classical company in Monaco.
Окей. И еще один вопрос к тебе, Мэй.
One more question for you, May.
Почему в вашем репертуаре в театре
Why in
практически
your
нет
repertoire
современной
in theater
хореографии,
there's almost
только
no
классические
contemporary
балеты и
ballet,
неоклассика?
only classics and
Почему?
neoclassics? Why is that?
Why?
Why?
Почему?
Why?
Почему?
I mean,
You're not interested in the modern dance?
Неужели тебе не нравится современный танец?
of course, I'm interesting, but
Конечно, мне
what
интересно.
I dreamed about since when I was young was to dance this
Но
classical
я с детства
ballet.
мечтала танцевать
And
классический
that's what I
балет.
like.
И он мне
Are you still happy with your rap in the Mariinsky?
That's why I'm here.
Конечно, поэтому я и здесь.
Okay. Thank you.
Camilla, I have a question for you. This question is addressed to all the foreign dancers. What made you choose the Mariinsky as your workplace? That's the first question, and there is another one.
Good afternoon. So, shall I tell you how I got here?
Well, it's not a secret, please tell us.
So, I spent 3 years studying in Moscow, and at the end of the third year, I took part in the Russian ballet competition, and Yuri here was on the jury of the competition. And after the competition, he invited me here, and for me, of course, it was quite a shock. It was completely unexpected. During the 3 years in Moscow, I dreamt of dancing at the Bolshoi. And when I was invited here, it was a huge shock for me. But then I talked to Yuri, and I realized that this would be a good place for me. It would be a place where I could grow.
So I convinced you to do that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you have any troubles communication when you came into the Mariinsky? You are a foreigner. Did you have any troubles, any language barrier? So, well, probably now everybody knows that you speak perfectly.
Thank you. Yes, it was quite difficult at first. During the first year, the whole year, because I think the people didn't know that I spoke Russian. So that created a barrier in itself. So they just didn't expect that. And when they realized that I spoke Russian, I started talking to people more, and everything became very, very easy, and I feel very, very comfortable at the theater now.
I think that when you came into the theater, we actually went to Italy on tour, and in Italy you helped everybody with your Italian.
Yes, I was very lucky then, because the theater does not have
it was even your
visits to
hometown.
Italy, and that was in Torino, my native city. I was very lucky.
I tried very hard, you know, Camilla.
And yes, we walked around Torino, and of course I helped everyone who needed my help.
Thank you. Seva, there's a question for you. Apart from graduated the Kiev Choreographic Academy, you also studied for a year in the United States. So since in the West, a lot of people participate in ballet competitions, there are lots of them, of different ranks and level, there is a question. How did you deal with the stress when you competed in a ballet competition? Did you have any moments of despair in your life, in your professional life? And if yes, what helped you deal with that?
Well, I took part in lots of competitions in Varna, in YNGP, in Kiev, and I've always fought my stress and conquered it. I think it's something that is always going to be present in my profession, but I think it's most important to just learn to control it, to manage it, so that stress gives you energy but does not take it away. And often I was able to perform well at the competition because I was calm. So you are somewhat nervous, but your head is able to think and you are enjoying yourself. And there were some competitions after which I was depressed and cried a lot and thought of leaving ballet forever. So competitions are a big help. It's a very good practice for you. I think you have to go to competitions. It's a very good experience. And it's most important to take part, not to win. So at first you get disappointed, but then you feel happy that this happened to you. It's an experience that will always remain with you, and you will always be able to use it. So now I know how to manage stress. And my injuries were also a great help for managing stress. After an injury, you are a different person. So you have to understand why you're doing that. You dance, and dancing is a great pleasure, and sharing this pleasure with your audience is a priceless experience. So you have to think about dancing, about the pleasure, but you have to keep thinking. Before the performance, you have to work a lot. 200% effort.
Oh, yes, Seva. Speaking of despair, you mentioned that you had some injuries and you have been preparing, and then there is an injury. And of course, a person might get into despair. It's normal. And if it didn't matter for you, and if you just celebrate that and spend a night in your sofa, lying watching TV, and then it would mean that you're doing a wrong profession. What helped you when you had been going somewhere and then you've suddenly tumbled at your last step? What helped you to regain confidence, regain strength, and not to dwell into despair and start it all over again? You basically climbed a mountain and then you're down again. What can you do? How to find strength in yourself?
Thank you for this wonderful question. I do have experience like that. And I was very desperate. And I had all sorts of thoughts. It was very, very horrible, because you are moving ahead and then it stops abruptly. And it helped me to just analyze why this happened. And like Masha said, it really helped me just not to give up. I love doing that. I love ballet. I love ballet as a whole. So an obstacle on my way, I love it too much to just stop. So it does help to analyze why those injuries happen. You have to rest, you have to watch yourself, you have to build strength, you have to stretch. So my last injury was when we were preparing Swan Lake with Maria, and I was out of shape. So it was due to my own stupidity, as I understand it now, because I did not take the right approach. I did not prepare well. So the most important thing is to analyze and to understand why you're doing that.
And never stop, right?
Yes, never stop. And also another phrase helped me. After my second injury, I came back and we went to China. It was the Firebird, and I called my sister. We graduated from the ballet school together, and I recorded myself on video, and I saw that my legs were out of shape. And it was very, very sad for me. And I told her, I'm probably going to just leave ballet. And she said, appetite grows as you eat, so just start working.
Siva, did anyone help and support you in the company? Perhaps your coaches, or perhaps the director of the ballet?
To be honest, Yuri, I'm very grateful to you. I'm very grateful to the company, to my partners, Masha here. And with Masha, we went through those injuries during the Swan Lakes, and all of you, the coaches. And sometimes I just look at the company as an observer, and I think I've been so lucky that everybody is so friendly from my very first day. I think this is going to stay like this in this theater forever.
Thank you,
So much
Seva.
support.
Маш, специальные вопросы тебе
Masha, questions for you,
для Маши Khorevой.
for Masha Khoreva.
Поделитесь вашим секретом.
Please share your
Как вы
secret.
всё успеваете?
How come you manage to do everything?
Спектакли.
You have shows, you've written a book,
Окончили бакалавриат в Вагановской академии.
you've graduated from Vaganova Academy, you have an Instagram, you have a YouTube channel. How come you have time for everything, for editing and writing texts in both in English and in Russian?
Thank you. I'm very flattered.
Я точно могу сказать, что вот, во-первых, начиная с того, что закончила бакалавриат, тут вот практически
So I graduated from the BA, and almost everyone sitting here has already graduated from the master's program.
я всегда восхищаюсь тем, насколько
And I'm always amazed by the people surrounding me here in this company.
суперлюди.
I just look at them and I think they're super people.
Еще успевает и
They have kids, they have time to rehearse with someone, they're getting some extra degrees, they perform on stage. And I think this whole creative atmosphere in this theatre is so inspiring to all of us.
нам всем
And it is of great
не
help.
останавливаться и идти все время вперед и
It's what keeps us moving forward,
новые трудности.
finding ourselves, finding new hardships, new obstacles.
Вещи,
Not exactly obstacles, but things to struggle against, things to overcome in order to grow. Because there's so much inspiration around us. Like Roman said, that he came to class and all of those stars were around him. I think even now we feel so happy
каждый раз приходя на класс,
when we come to class
вокруг вдохновений,
and there's so much inspiration, so many brilliant examples to follow.
артистов, которые не перестают каждый день работать.
Different, unique artists that keep working on themselves. And I am sincerely amazed by how much these artists want to grow every day. And it's a huge motivation for me to just find time for everything. And speaking of social networks, I just always want to share this gratitude I feel. And I just feel so lucky by all of this inspiration, all of this air of creativity that's around me. So I think for me and for all of us, this is what keeps moving us forward, this atmosphere of creativity here in the theatre.
Thank you, Masha.
Маша, ты человек
Masha,
по характеру нет, не грустный.
you're, well, not sad, you're very happy, I think,
Такой вопрос, который
and cheerful.
пришел.
I have this question from a student.
Есть и были ли у вас моменты на сцене, которые хочется забыть?
Have you ever had any
Или
moments on
наоборот,
stage that you'd
самый
like to
смешной случай
forget?
на сцене?
Or perhaps the most funny incident?
Of course, there are moments I want to forget, not just on stage. And they are the ones you remember most often, the ones that you want to forget. When you have to concentrate or when you're trying to fall asleep, you always remember something weird from on stage. I think everyone has those moments. And as for those you want to
Something funny,
remember,
perhaps.
Of course. So the day before yesterday, I was dancing Effie in La Sylphide, and I don't know if you've noticed.
I saw that.
I was wondering if you would notice me making mistakes. Well, I am center stage, it's hard not to notice, and it's not the first time. 2 years ago, this happened too, and I was not so experienced at lying then. I did not even watch it afterwards. It probably showed on my face. I remember that moment very, very well. So I'm not going to say what I said to myself at the time. Oh, no, there weren't any swear words. But my face just showed it all. And it was not the face of the girl getting married. And yesterday I also made mistakes in the reel. And as you know, the more you want to avoid mistakes, the greater the chance that you would make it anyway. And I think that those moments make your life more interesting. And that will be something to remember when I'm retired. And we can all laugh at it. And the last minutes of the performance, I was just questioning if I was going to get killed by my boss afterwards. Should I tell anyone? And then, yes, I did confess to my mistakes. I'm a very honest girl. So I found the strength. And as for the pleasant moments, well, these are more difficult to remember because I try to concentrate on stage so that things like the day before yesterday never happen. And when I manage to do that and the performance is what I consider good, when this happens, I don't exactly feel it. Maybe that's the way I am. And it's hard for me to be aware of everything in the moment. So it's not that I live in the past, but there are more funny moments than successful moments. But it's still great.
Seva probably has something to say, and I was willing to listen to you all guys if you remember any funny moments and share them.
So I would like to apologize first. I had lots of funny and shameful moments on stage, and even sometimes everybody would finish with their leg to their knee, and my leg would be just on the floor. So there were some funny moments and some shameful ones. They're not to be repeated, they're to learn from. The first one was my premiere of Raimonda. And I never sewed my ballet shoes, so when I got new shoes, I always felt good at them, so I never put rosin on them. And so there I am, Grandpa, the first line, and first I lose the heel of one shoe and then the other. And then I realized that I have to move my feet like this in first position so that I don't lose my shoes on stage. It was very funny, it was very shameful, and not just for me. And that's a memory I have, and it's great. So I've learned my lesson, and I do put rosin on them. And the other one was also in the reel. The soloist was David Zaleev. It was very, very fast, and I was part of the pas de deux. And we moved away, and I lifted my leg, and we somehow crossed each other with David in the air, and I just fell on my back. And you asked me why I fell, and I said, well, it was slippery. But honestly, I have no idea how this happened. It was very funny. You can see it on social networks. Thank you.
Masha, I think you remember something too.
I have a very funny but a very interesting story. I love it. It happened to me in Washington, D.C. during Corsair. You have to take the knife out of the bed. So there's something like a couch. And Konrad, my lover, is on this couch, so he took the sleeping draft. He actually inhaled the steam of the sleeping draft, and I have to take out the knife from the side of the couch. And it's lying there, it's prepared for me. And so I have to hide it behind my back and then take it out and hit the villain on the arm. It's a very small knife. And before this happened, in the scene before that, you need glasses and a jug of wine. on the bed. And in one of the performances, I had to go backstage to get them. They were not on the bed. And I thought, okay, those things happen. Things just happen. And so during one of the nights, I thought that it was possible that they would place the knife in a different spot of the bed. So I leaned down to Konrad, who is sleeping on the couch, and I feel that there's something under his pillow. And I thought, okay, so they've placed the knife there. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to follow what happens. And I can see it in slow motion in my head. And I take it out. It's not the small knife, but it's a huge saber. And I had to hold it and run with it. It was very, very funny. And I remember Igor Petrov, our coach, said, well, so Maria, you can use a sword too. That was very, very funny. But yes, those things do happen. And there's something to remember.
May, what about you? Did you have any funny incidents?
After all this funny story, I cannot say I have so much. I mean, I can only remember the scary story, which is, you know, before the performance of Sylphide again. Yeah, it was, the third bell was already there, and for me, the thing I have to do before the performance is to sew the ponchos, the ribbons, and to sew the tights and ponchos. And I did everything, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I positioned myself, and something was not going well with my ponchos and tights, and it was very skolska there. And I was like, okay, maybe I cannot. And then I stood up, and my ponchos just came on the heel, like it just, you know, how do you say, like it slipped, yes, it was very slippery. And I had to just run to my развалка, and I took off everything, you know, what I saw, and it was not, I was feeling like, okay, I think I have to just skip the performance. Like this was the best, I don't know, the worst memory. Yeah. So it's not something funny, but now, of course, when I remember, it's funny for me, but it was just like a scary and something that I don't want to remember.
I remember that performance. Yeah. I remember that day.
Yeah, yes. Even Yuri Fateev came to me and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm okay." But I think my face was not okay. I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I just did everything, and yeah, I didn't even have time to sew my ponchos again, so I just went on stage, and it was very scary. Yeah.
Камилла, нечего добавить смешного?
Но я не знаю, насколько это смешно.
I don't know how funny that is. You weren't there. Maybe that was good that you weren't there. You were away in America, I think. And I was dancing the thin sister in Cinderella. And in the third act, there is a fight between the thin and the fat sister. They're actually boxing. And you have to change your feet and then do like a battement ahead and an attitude back. And I changed my feet and I couldn't feel my feet. And I just fell on my back. And I could hear everyone backstage laughing because it is a boxing scene. And then Tatiana said that it could have been part of choreography.
As a part of choreography, right.
Because, so I think for everyone it was really funny. It was my first time falling this badly during a performance. And it's good that the situation was like that.
So it actually did not ruin the artistic merit of the show, right?
I don't know, you have to ask the audience. I don't have many funny stories to tell. Before this public talk, I asked Masha if they could ask us, and she said, my head is completely blank, and I said, mine is too. So there were no funny stories. I fell really badly. I was very ashamed of that. And I fell in Le Parc, in Scheherazade, and Victoria Tereshkina was Scheherazade, and she moves very gracefully along the edge of the stage, and I fell very, very loudly, and she said that, oh, so she fell, and I thought that if even she falls, this can happen to anyone. And during the Four Seasons, Vladimir Shklerov had his debut in, so it was a very big thing, because it was his debut in this ballet. And my pants tore, and I was standing with my back to the audience, and I realized that Vladimir just stopped being the hero of this performance. But it ended well anyway.
Thank you, Roma.
I also remembered a funny story. It has something to do with Camilla. We were in Korea, in Seoul. It was our first time there. And we were dancing Don Quixote. And we were dancing the classical grand pas in the first and in the third act. Since not the whole company goes abroad, we had to just sit on
you
stage.
had to use the tambourine, right?
So we talked to everyone, and we were not very good actresses because we didn't have any experience. And during the dress rehearsal, we sat in all of those different poses. And then Elena Vorontsova, our coach, ran up to us and she said, "Are you crazy? You look like you're sitting in front of the TV at home. Get yourself together." And then we thought about all of those scenes to play out, how to... Another story I remember, it was Victoria Tereshkina and Kim. And I always felt that, like, jumping up and applauding, and then I remembered that I was on stage and I had to sit still. It's a very interesting experience. So you are a spectator, but you are on stage. This is a story about Japan. We were there with our school, with the Vaganova Academy, and we were dancing the Nutcracker. And there was a round stage, and the stage entrance was not a curtain, but a door. And I was supposed to raise the chair and take Masha off stage, and I did not plan for Masha not fitting into the door. And Masha just sort of slid down the wall. That was very funny.
Masha, I have a question for you. This question also came from a student. Are there any nightmares connected to ballet? What can go wrong during the show? And what can you do if something like that happens? Both in life and in dreams.
Yes, I do have nightmares. I think everyone does. I think you can create a classification of those nightmares. Being late for performance, forgetting the order of movements, being late for your stage entrance.
Being late for the stage, right?
Yes, you can hear your music and you're walking up there. It feels like it's a mile to the stage. Sometimes I have a nightmare that I have to dance something classical, but I'm wearing black tights. One dream was very funny. I was supposed to dance Swan Lake, and somebody comes up to me after the third bell and says, "You have to dance the Nutcracker." And I thought, well, I know the moves. I can do that. So in my dreams, I just wake up and give a sigh of relief. But in real life, what helps me is thinking that if something is going wrong, I have to calm down and just take one step at a time, one problem at a time. And this way you do not lose time and move out of this difficult situation in an acceptable way.
Спасибо.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ром, я хочу задать
Roma, another question for you.
И вот задавая этот вопрос, я
And when asking this question, I already have a picture in front of my head. The second hall of the Vaganova Academy, and you are doing a class.
почему-то я это
Somehow this memory is in front of my eyes. I used to visit your classes, right, when you were a student.
вопрос такой.
And here's the question.
Вы бы дали себе
Which piece of advice would you give to yourself as a graduate if you could go back in past?
И вот я представляю тебя на этом.
So I'm imagining you at a class in grey tights during a Vaganova class.
I don't like the color of tights, that color for tights. I'm sorry. That might sound trivial, but we've always been told to be braver. I'm very timid, if I may say so. I always set limits of what's acceptable, and I look at other people and I think being bold actually helps. So I would recommend myself to value each moment, because sometimes you have a performance and 3 rehearsals in a day, and you feel that you can let go a little. But after the performance, you are very ashamed of not doing your best, and you know that you could have done your best. So you have to value each moment, because today you think that you're young. It might sound very strange when I say that, but now we have new dancers in the company, and I don't know them because I've been here for 5 years. I don't remember them at school. Time flies, so value time. This is your main resource. And good luck.
Camilla, I would like to ask you something. Can a dancer at the theater, at our theater, refuse to perform a part or a concert number with a reason? Can you give us a reason that you might reject a performance?
Well, one reason would be an injury. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. But I don't really have any experience.
You never rejected a performance, did you?
No, I don't know. But I can see that this happens sometimes. So I think it could be because the dance is not feeling well. I think you can say no, can you, Yuri? I don't know.
Well, you can try, you know.
I don't know. Maybe yes? Better not risk it.
Ты видела такие примеры?
Have you ever seen a case like that?
Well, I saw that people said no because they weren't feeling well.
Well,
That-
that's natural.
No other reasons, no.
Хорошо, спасибо.
Okay, great, thank you.
Вы знаете, я прошу прощения, одну секунду. Вот меня всегда восхищают
I
такие
would like
артисты.
to say something.
У нас
I am always amazed by artists like
есть
this when
и вот, например,
people
Екатерина Кандаурова, когда танцует этот человек,
have
все знают, что она
a
100%.
resource. And for example,
Безопасно
Ekaterina
должны оставаться все,
Kandaurova,
когда танцует.
you
Екатерина,
know
она может
that
сразу говорить,
the
«Уходите, я станцую всегда». Неважно,
that her backup does not have to be present at the theatre because she will always do her job. And this is an example for me. This is the top professional. I have the greatest
Да,
respect for
могу,
her.
полностью
Yes,
присоединиться
I
к
totally
твоим
agree,
словам по поводу оценки
especially when we talk
Кати,
about Ekaterina,
потому что это было с первой
because it
секунды
actually
работы в театре.
happened with her with
Даже
the very
получив,
second
скажем
of her
так, ну, достаточно
begin
серьезную
at the
травму.
Mariinsky. Even with an injury, with a very serious injury on her knee, there were foresight shows, and 10 days after her knee injury, her knee operation, Katya was still dancing foresight. It was all about the knees, and it's really true. She is a great artist from a capital letter. Masha, one more question for you. How would a graduate get into the Mariinsky? What are the professional criteria for your physique, for your appearance, professional training? What is the level of proficiency of classical ballet technique? It's a difficult question.
I think this question would be best answered by you, Yuri.
Я могу только, наверное, сказать о том, что
I can only say that I was very lucky to have studied at the Vaganova Academy.
практически начало своего существования готовила
That has always prepared dancers for the Mariinsky, for our city, for our theatre. And I think that the criteria used by the teachers at the Vaganova are best suited for our theatre.
именно, мне кажется, самый главный критерий,
But I think the main criterion,
пуская все профессиональные какие-то нюансы,
if we leave aside all of the professional criteria, I think the main criterion is the love, the desire to work in this theatre,
гармоничной частью коллектива,
the desire to be a harmonious part of this company, of putting your effort into this joint effort of the company,
каждый зал, каждого артиста.
the love and respect towards every room, every artist, all of the customs, the whole procedure, the rehearsals, the performances. So the love and
На самом деле, вот тоже кто-то из
the loyalty to this place.
Сева, по-моему,
I think Sev already mentioned this today, that when we came here, when we came to the theatre,
очень удивило то, насколько
I personally was absolutely amazed by how helpful, how friendly everyone was, because we have all heard those stories about glass in your point shoes and the rest of this nonsense. And somebody told me things like that about the Mariinsky. There's so much gossip, there's so much jealousy, everybody's gonna look at you in a very weird way. But I never experienced that.
каждый мой партнер,
And it's such a good team. And I've been very lucky with my partners, and everyone has supported me, all of my colleagues. And I think this whole relationship is the foundation of the company. And also we're all grateful to you for that, Yuri. And for me personally, this is the main psychological criterion.
Well, I could add a little bit from myself that all the artists that you can see here are the criteria. You look at them, they are the criterion. My last question here, and then you guys please choose who wants to answer that. Here's the question, so let's see. I'm not addressing it personally. Are there any shows that you performed, and during this performance, you felt an incredible assistance from Corps de Ballet?
I will start because I have an actual story about this. January the 10th, 2020, it was my debut in Swan Lake. It was my first big ballet aside from the school Nutcracker. It was very scary, and I think that's normal. And I was warming up and telling myself not to be scared, and I think that was very obvious. And a colleague came up to me. It was Nastya Saben, and she came up to me and she said, "We're all standing next to you, don't be afraid." And I let go of all of those worries and fears because I understood that I have my swans with me. And I've stood next to them for many a performance. And it's not just me dancing here, we're all dancing. It's not my performance, it's ours. It's ours, it belongs to us, to the audience. It was absolutely magical. Thank you, Nastya.
Thank you, Masha. Seva, you have something to add?
Also, when I had my debut as Konrad in Corsair, I also was quite amazed by being supported up to the moment I go up to the stage. And I was dancing with Victor Kaisheta and Kim In Kim, and everyone you dance with, the whole corps de ballet, and everyone in the changing room with you. Everyone is very, very supportive. And I agree with Masha, it makes you very, very confident. And it feels like your second family, it feels like home. It's very, very close to your heart, and it makes you calm, and it makes you confident, and it's huge support.
Thank you, Seva. Is it all? No. If you guys have any questions now, perhaps you want to ask them directly. We have an open floor. Go for it. Hello, I'm a student from the Eifman Academy. Can you please tell me, how do you react to comments in your social media? Do you follow the reaction on the internet, and how do you deal with hate towards you? Oh, there is no hate, you know, everything's okay.
Well, I think hate is actually useful. I think all of the comments are useful. I listen to all of the comments I get, constructive criticism, or when people just tell me that I'm talentless and that I can't do anything. I think all of those comments are motivating. They motivate you to go into your rehearsal room and do something after the performance. And the good comments also help. They show that you're not doing this in vain. But I don't think you can be carried away by good comments. I sometimes take them as flattery because I look at my own video and I think, oh goodness.
For me, it's a little bit different because I can hate myself more than anyone else. Because always after the performance, even the teacher or the people tells me it was good, I always say no, it wasn't good. I have something that I have to work on, and I think I'm very good, person that I can find and look myself what was bad, and I don't really find myself what was good, actually. Yeah, so, yeah.
Also, Yuri, you said that when you finished the previous season, we were in the Crimea with Masha after Ratmansky's concert, and you said something that I remembered. You said that the most important thing is that art, well, let me remember. The most important thing is that art, that any emotion, that any hate, that any joy, when you like something, when the audience likes what you did, when the audience doesn't like what you did, it's very good because it is attention. And you said that art was, well, I keep forgetting what you said.
It shouldn't be bland, Seva. It has to arise feelings. Well, in ideal, it has to awake some good feelings in yourself, some kind emotions, but it shouldn't leave you indifferent.
Yes, art has to leave no one indifferent. That was what you said.
Masha, would you like to add something?
I actually disagree with Seva. I disagree that hate motivates. and I disagree that good comments make you happy, because I think that both these polarities are a little bit over-exaggerated. On the social networks, people want to share their emotions, but I think it's most important that you listen to the people who are actually close to you, your coaches, your teachers, your family, your colleagues, the people who know art, who know it very, very well, people who wish the dancer well and who wish art well and ballet as an art. And I think that negative comments or overly positive comments can make you veer off and lose the way that you've planned for yourself, or that the people who are invested in your career have planned for you. So I think we shouldn't take them too close to heart. We shouldn't take emotional comments too close to heart, but we have to listen to the people close to us. And I would like to add, Masha, I came across an opinion that I found very inspiring, that nature sound videos on YouTube get 8,000 dislikes, so people will always find something to dislike. And when people just write utter nonsense, just don't pay attention, don't waste your energy.
Thank you. Perhaps something else? My name is Kurskaya Sofia. I'm from Eifman Academy. Marie and May mentioned some rituals that every dancer would do before coming on stage. Tell us about some traditions that are in the theater, or perhaps something that you actually do before you go on stage. Oh, is it like about spacemen in space, what they do before that?
Yeah. Можно по-английски?
In English.
During our conversation, you told about different traditions or rituals, and what a ritual you have before the going to the stage.
Можно по-английски поговорить?
I mean, may I answer in English?
Yeah, so I told you about the punches.
Я уже рассказала вам про пуанты.
When I was in school in Japan before Monaco, always before the performance, like concourse or competition, I would always go in the center and kiss to the center like this. But once I forgot this, and I kind of got very more nervous than usually, so I stopped this, and I tried to not really set my like a plan before going on stage. So I don't know. I can't really say that I have something that is very important to do, but I don't know, it comes natural for me, so I don't even want to think about it because it gives me so much, I don't know, stress and nervous,
Thank you.
Masha, this is a question for you.
I have a ritual, and I try to always perform it. I have to touch the stage with both hands before I go out on stage. It gives me energy. But like May said, sometimes you don't feel like programming yourself. That if you do that, the performance will be good. If you don't do it, everything will go badly. because sometimes you forget to do this and the performance is perfect, and sometimes you do it and the performance is not exactly successful. I think the most important thing is to concentrate, to cancel out all of the redundant thoughts, and that's what rituals help with, but they're not the most important thing for me.
Perhaps the most important ritual is rehearsal, right, guys? There are some more questions right here. Let's hear them. Good evening, everybody, and Yuri. I'm Sofia Khoreva from Vaganova Academy. So, Masha mentioned that there are some overhyped things, and Pavel Durov some time ago mentioned some overhyped and understated things. Well, if you complicate that, can you tell me what are the two overstated and two understated moments in your ballet life? Who wants to answer this very difficult question? So you can have some time to think. Sofia put you all in a very difficult position. Perhaps Seva has an answer here.
Okay. I think the overestimated thing is nervousness. It's all in your head. You create those labels all by yourself. So this part, it's very responsible, but it's all a huge hyperbole, and you put too much. It's like too much is hanging on it. It's not the end of your life. Just go out and dance. I think that nervousness is overestimated. And I think everyone does that in their head, and it works differently for everyone. And the underestimated, I think, is ballet as an art in general, because you see so much attention being paid to sports, football, for example. I understand that they are two very different things, but I would really like ballet to be more popular today for just, you know, the man in the street, so to say. I would like that to be valued more. It's a very interesting question. I think it depends on the angle you take. So, judging from my small experience, I'd say that the underestimated thing is the work of the corps de ballet for the general audience, because the effort and the work they put in, and as Svetlana Zakharova says, people don't stand in corps de ballet, they work and even dance a little. I think this is the wrong way to say this. You have to respect what people in the corps de ballet do, because if you translate corps de ballet from French, it's the body of ballet. So soloists are not enough. And another thing that deserves more attention, I don't know if we need to talk about it, but when we go out on stage, both the soloists and the corps de ballet, there are lots of obstacles. So it's not like you just go out and dance perfectly. You have lots of very complicated rehearsals, you have injuries, anything could happen in your life, and even right before you go out on stage, something could happen that would make you lose control, and the audience doesn't know that, and maybe that's good because it's the theater. And he also asked about comments. When people write their comments, they don't know what's behind it, what's behind your dancing. Only a few people know that, you and your coach. But on the other hand, it is art, and art is supposed to be perfect. And the overestimated things, well, I don't know. I think everything has to be valued and estimated in our art.
I would add that not speaking about under or overestimated things, but speaking about the quality. The quality of shows must really be what it should be. Ballet is elitist art. It is the art not for everybody. Not everyone can do it. Not everyone can understand it. Ballet is of the selected ones and for the selected ones. There are lots of companies and there are a lot of ballet theaters who would show the so-called Swan Lakes and Sleeping Beauties or something like that. This all denigrates the real art of ballet. And I think this is not acceptable. This is what should not exist. Dancing a thing, such a great ballet masterpiece of the classical repertory, such as La Bayadère, Giselle, Don Quixote, Raimonda, Swan Lake, and all the others. Only a few companies in the world, very few companies in the world can dance it the right way, and you should value it highly. It's impossible to, and you should not underestimate that. Any more questions? I am Anna Mecheva from Vaganova Academy. If you could go back in time when you were still learning, what could you change, whether in your attitude or in the atmosphere? What could you change in your past? I think Masha has an answer.
I think this is a very relevant question for all of us today. What you said about attending performances, Yuri, I can't say that we were able to watch performances so much when we were students. I think this tradition sort of went away, this intergenerational link when everybody watched everyone, and the Mariinsky and the Vaganova were so closely linked that the teachers, that the students could just attend any performance they wished. And I think if I could go back to being a student, I would make myself be a lot more interested in ballet. It seemed to me that I was interested in ballet and I watched performances. We were all interested in that. We were all thinking about that. But having worked at the theatre for several years, I could tell the young version of me to pay attention to certain things, to watch older recordings, to watch for this connection, for this link between the old and the new performances, that you have to attend live performances of the Mariinsky and any theatre for that matter. And ballet is so profound as an art, despite being an elite art, but still it's so profound that whichever way you go, you can see so much growth. The technique, the acting, the link between the music and the choreography. You could write volumes of dissertations. It doesn't have to be your profession. It could be a wonderful hobby. You could study that for the duration of your whole life. So I would tell myself, be more interested, learn more, watch more, learn about ballet, study ballet, and find wonderful and interesting things in it.
Are there any more questions? Hello, my name is Anna Khoreva. I'm from Eifman Academy. Maria Khoreva, I have a question for you. Which parts are closer to you? Dramatic parts or classical parts?
Thank you for such a specific and interesting question. I can say that both Giselle and Nikita are amazing dramatic parts, very deep, and there's a lot to think about, there's a lot to work on, and it can take a lifetime. I can't say that I prefer one of them. They're very different, but also very similar. It's like a lifetime within each part, and you can't just compare them. But as for Balanchine and contemporary choreography, I can say that it's Balanchine, because Balanchine's ballets are an enormous aesthetic pleasure for the audience, and also an aesthetic and physiological pleasure for the dancer. Because on the one hand, it's very complicated, but also very convenient and comfortable choreography. And it's great that we have a lot of Balanchine's productions in our theater, and I've been lucky to dance in them. He was a great 20th century genius, and I believe that this foundation of the neoclassicism that he's created, for me, means a lot more than contemporary choreography. Maybe that is because I haven't tried out much contemporary choreography, though.
Hello, my name is Patryk Benaki. I'm from the Vaganova Academy. I have a question. So, when you get the main part, how do you get it ready? Your breathing, your legs, if you don't want to get very tired? Because, of course, if you dance the whole show, a lot of acts, and it might be challenging.
Well, I think it's more rehearsals. And I know this from experience. Sometimes I feel like I'm dying on stage, so just go from beginning to end, from beginning to end. I also have to be mentally prepared, because sometimes it happened to me that you just go out on stage and you feel afraid, you're feeling nervous, and it overwhelms you, and it just eats you up. So you have to be mentally calm, and you have to practice more and more. And as you said, Yuri, the main ritual is rehearsal. So we're all sitting here, and we also want to ask ballerinas this question. I sometimes see Alina Somova after the first act of The Sleeping Beauty, and she's just so light. Or Vika Tereshkina after Don Quixote. It's all so professional, so light. And I think it comes with experience and with professionalism. And I'm pretty confident that it's like that. I don't think we can answer this question.
The question was about breathing as well. How to breathe?
For myself, I found that sometimes you have to get yourself back into shape if you have a long break between performances. So I jump rope for a long, long time. I just turn on my favorite song and jump, jump, jump. Jump until I feel a pain in my heart. And then day by day, you do that again and again, and you get used to this cardio exercise, and rehearsals get easier too. Yes, Masha is absolutely right. But every time I dance the Indian dance, it's very, very hard. I always feel like I'm dying. You always feel that you're prepared, but it's always very, very difficult.
The most important thing, well, one of the most important things, because in ballet actually everything is important. Well, I cannot count with my fingers to mention all the most important things. They all have to occur at the same time in the same moment in one person to become a great show. But actually for this question about physical shape, this is what you need, physical fitness. Apart from everything else, from routine exercise, about your class, about rehearsals, physique is what you need, shape. Well, you have to go to the gym, you have to go to the park and run and jog and skip rope and jump, as if you're becoming a kind of a warrior, a soldier. And only when you get a certain physical freedom in your body, this is when you can do anything with your body. Hello, my name is Karamishval Angelina. I'm from Vaganova Academy. What are the most dramatic changes between working at the academy and working at the theater? Well, of course, the number of performances, perhaps something different in class or in performances. What is the difference for you? Oh, why me again?
I was sitting here so comfortably. Well, of course, the day is very, very different. Everything is very stable. The schedule is very stable at the academy. You know what you're doing from Monday to Saturday, every day at the same time. You have character, pas de deux, acting class. And here, my life became a lot more interesting. The work is very diverse. Throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the year, there's nothing routine. Of course, there is some routine. But even if you have to do some routine things every day in order to keep fit, to be able to work in this theater, you still adapt to the schedule of the day and to the schedule of tomorrow. And we have performances every day, we have rehearsals at different times. And the performances are different performances, different productions. So the workload is different, and you have to prepare yourself mentally in different ways. And I find it all wonderful.
Well, speaking of schedules, I can say that yes, in fact, we are trying to introduce the schedule 2 days beforehand. But in practice, it doesn't work out very well because during the day there are so many changes that everything changes. It's life, you know. Of course, this is not something like Russian laziness. Well, I can give you an example. For example, when George Balanchine was working in New York City Ballet, people will get their schedule via voicemail on their telephone the day before the performance. Balanchine told his dancers because they should have no plans for the day apart from work. And that is why when you come to this very theater, you also should understand that you will have to invest all of yourself and dedicate yourself to this art, to this profession that you are willing to serve. Good evening. My name is Khoreva. I am from Vaganova Academy. So tell me, the way you understand the life of ballet since you entered the academy and now, has it changed so much, your perception of this art and ballet?
Do you mean the way I see theater?
Well, I think they're just talking about the ballet world. You know, when you were just beginning, doing your first steps in ballet, and what about now? What's happening now?
Of course it did. I started doing ballet in Italy. It was a small school. I did not know what ballet was. My family had nothing to do with ballet, so I did not know anything. And for me, it was entertainment. And over time, I realized that that was something I wanted to do all my life. And I can say that everything changed for me when I entered the academy here in Russia, because here your life is all about ballet and only about ballet, and it was different for me in Italy. I spent a lot of time at a regular school, and ballet was not the greatest part of my life. So it was a huge step for me when I came here. And when I joined the theatre, it was also a great change in my life. And if we come back to the previous question, when I was at the academy, I did not devote enough time to studying the culture of ballet. The ballet, not just as a technique, but its history. I didn't know a lot. So, honestly speaking, when I joined the theatre, I had the feeling that I didn't know anything. It's probably hard for you to understand because you've been studying at the academy for many, many years and you have always had this culture around you. But that was not the case for me. And when I joined the theatre, I began studying all over again, and I'm still studying. And I think I will continue studying for the rest of my life. And all of the people working here and the atmosphere, all of the productions, all of the coaches are a big example for me.
Thank you, Camilla.
I also want to add, what's different is that at the academy, you always have a timetable. You have classes, you have practice, classical dance, pas de deux. And here at the theatre, you are responsible for that. Nobody's going to push you so that you practice more. It's all up to you. So you have to do what you need to get done. So that's why you see theatre very differently. You become more independent.
Well, we have to finish our public talk. Our time is almost up. I truly thank everybody here for sharing your thoughts, for giving us a piece of their soul, for the future ballet. Well, you can see the guys who will be following your steps. You will see them next to yourselves very soon. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you for coming prepared. We are sincerely happy to see you. We wish you all the best. We wish you best in studying and in taking this amazing, very difficult profession, but very beautiful.
Стоп, камера.